So we've got a really truly international feel to our lineup today. We have Faris from Amsterdam, Jonathan from New Zealand, and Rachel from Boston. So we've got three great talks today. And to start off with, I'm going to hand over to Faris, who's going to talk to us about empowering the biologist and liberating the bioinformatician. So this is kind of very close to my original career. So we're looking forward to hearing from this one. So over to you, Faris.
Great, thanks very much. I'll start sharing the screen. Let me see. Yeah, so my name is Faris. I'm based in Amsterdam. I started a company 2 years ago. And I came up, while I was cycling through Amsterdam, of course, on a bike, I thought of this expression, liberate the coder and empower the non-coder. And so my talk is all about coders and non-coders, because I'm been 15, 20 years in the life science area. So I've been working with biologists, basically, and there's been a revolution in biology, and all the biologists had to learn coding. And some of them made it and some of them didn't. A lot of people didn't make coding. I mean, they wanted to learn it, but it took a lot of time and they had to focus on their own domain knowledge. So this problem between coders and non-coders, and that's why I call it basically liberating the coder and empowering the non-coder. Because I think this is from my experience, and I think it applies to other areas as well. The non-coder wants to get control back on the data, especially data analysis. And this means adding meta annotations for genes and basically biology annotation. They want to visualize, they want to interact, they want to handle large data sets. And we're talking about millions of data points here. So they really want to get empowered. And the coder ends up doing a kind of help desk function to the non-coder. They really want to just focus on innovation, and they want to do methodologies. They'd like to educate the non-coder, but they wouldn't want to do the help desk and the fixing the bugs and changing the colors of graphs, for example. And they want zero deployment. Coders don't want to spend time deploying, they want it really quickly. So I call that liberation. That's what my talk is about. It's about how to get these two to work together closer, and how to dissipate or get harmony between these two. So basically, a coder usually has a package, and it starts becoming very popular. And if the non-coder uses it, there is a whole range of issues, and it becomes barriers. I tried to make these orange bricks here look like a barrier between the non-coder and the coder. And non-coders find using a package, the package management to be an issue, the data management, the deployment, the maintaining, training, and how to use the package. So this is a huge issue for coders. Of course, if the package is for coders, then there is no issues. But if your package is going to be used by domain expertise people, then there is issues. And in the labs that I've been involved with, and I'm not sure, I think it's also relevant to the other industries, there's never enough coders. There's always one coder, and he's overworked and a bit stressed, and all the others are asking him to change the colors of graphs. And so there is a bottleneck going on. Not everywhere. I mean, some labs have a very good ratio between the two, and it works very well. But in most labs that I work with, there is this ratio, and I have seen 14:1, 20:1. I'm curious to hear from other people what they experience in this. So I want to get this harmony, and that's what this talk is about. So I noticed there's an issue with the tool space. We basically have, in the life science area, you basically have Excel and Prism up in the top left, because they have low coding skills and they can handle small bits of data. And on the bottom right, you have the SAS, the Python, and the bioconstructor. And they have the high coding skills, but they're also able to scale big data. What we really want is to have this SAS, Python, and R to go up into the quadrant here where people with low coding skill can use them. And that's why I started this company called Tercen. Tercen allows you to basically go into this area and have low coding skill and still be able to use R, Python, and SAS. So Tercen is, what is Tercen? The company I started, it's a visualization and relational layer on top of R. And I will show it to you. I have use cases. I can't go through them all because I've limited time, but I will go quickly through some ideas. So if I'm going to log into Tercen now, I'm going to Tercen, and the first thing you notice, it's online. So you don't install anything locally. And you basically can, it's like a GitHub. It has projects, private and public projects. It's made for the biologist or the non-coder to have the same kind of GitHub functionality without having to know all the GitHub features or command lines. Which basically has versioning, teams, and public and private. In projects, you can make them public or private, I said. So I'm going to click on my demo here. I'm just clicking on it, and it's taking ages for some reason. Yes, here it is. And I've uploaded some data. So I'm going to create a workflow, and I'm going to call it my workflow. And basically, once you've created the workflow, you can start editing it. And I'm going to add a table, which basically means data. So the biologist or the non-coder can add a table and start manipulating. And they can add a data step. And they can basically take an Excel spreadsheet and create the view that they would like, or the projection, I call it. So here I'm dragging measurements and samples and gene ID. So this is a typical data set for the biologist, basically. And you basically drag and drop what you would want here. So I think there's an interference with the actual share screen. So there is a little delay in things, I noticed. So here, I basically dragged samples on the column. I dragged measurements at the y-axis, and I dragged the gene ID as a row. So this is basically every row here is a gene, and every column here is a sample from a tissue sample or a tumor sample. And this is the readout for every gene for each sample. But you can make your view, and you can color, for example, by the measurement value, and you can go into heat map mode. So this is a heat map mode, and we kept it very high performance visualization system. So you can make, this is just one projection, but you can do a couple of different projections. But if you don't want the projection system, you can actually add a shiny yourself, and I'm just going to add a shiny now. So I've added a shiny heat map. You can look at the code if people are interested in the code. But I just clicked on the heat map, the shiny heat map operator, and you can see it's basically a standard shiny with some extra code to connect to Tercen. That's what and we have everything on GitHub, so you can look at all the code on GitHub. So once I've added the shiny operator, I got this extra tab here on the left, which appeared when I added the shiny, and basically it allows me to project the shiny inside my view. What's so interesting here, so you can override the visualization system that comes with Tercen with your own visualization system. But what's nice about this system is that the data that you see in the crosstab view is what's being given to the shiny here. So for a biologist, that's really handy, or for a non-coder. For example, if they want to go to the crosstab view and they want to remove a whole set of cell lines, they would just basically select here, exclude some samples from the measurement table here, and then go back to the operator view, which is the shiny being used, and the shiny will update with there are now less samples being used here. So it's a way of the advantage of this is that the shiny developer doesn't have to cater for all the data management parts, and can focus on the shiny or the algorithms and the visualization, and not the data management layer. So once you have, I'll duplicate this now, and I'll duplicate and I'll show you another operation in OR, the mean operator. So all these operators are, so Tercen does not compute. It's basically, Tercen is just a relational and visual layer. So all this, like this mean operator, I'm going to take a mean operator to do, and I'm going to basically do a mean operation on every gene. And I'm going to change my projection, because that will influence basically my mean. So you can see here that every gene has all the data points for that gene, and there's no sample separation, no columns called sample anymore. So basically, when you run this, you basically are creating a mean function. If you want to see the mean function, it's quite simple here. I'll show you the code. It's basically connecting to Tercen. It's doing a select statement in OR, It's grouping by the country, by the column and the row, and then it's doing a mean function. So that's what's happening when I hit that run button. It runs that code, and the mean is executed. And now you can, for example, if you steal or move the heat map that we did after the mean, you'll see that inside the projection in here, you now have the original columns from the Excel, but you have this mean value that is available to you. And you can use this mean value, for example, just in the same way as you use. So you can even use it as a filter, and you can color by the mean, for example. If you use it as a filter, it'll become a relational, you're using the relational aspects of Tercen. And if you use it as a color, you're using it as a visual aspect. So you basically can build up quite complicated workflows. I have, if you want to know, you can explore here and see some very sophisticated, it uses the same concept, and you can build up successive steps that use this relational and visual platform. So I'll go back here. How am I doing for time, Laura? Can
you are doing good. Yeah.
I have another. Okay, so I can do another 10 minutes. Great.
Yeah, basically. Perfect.
Great. So basically, what Tercen is doing is allowing you to package your OR code easier, so as the non-coder can be very flexible and powerful to use it. You can have a local instance. So when you click here, I'm running a local instance, a Docker instance here. So this is not on the cloud, as it were. This is running on my laptop, and you can build your codes. They're exactly the same functionality so we call this the enterprise server. It's the same functionality. And here I'm going to show you how we take basically a projection that I just mentioned, and we're going to manipulate it in our product here called Tercen Studio. It's basically OR Studio with the right OR packages, and it can connect to the local instance, or it can actually connect to the cloud instance. So here I have opened up Tercen Studio. You recognize it as OR Studio, the free version. And you see that I have all the packages ready. I'll just run the packages here. And this is where I say where the instance I want to use, and I log in, my login and password, and I can point to the projection that I want to use. In this case, this is the projection that I want to take the data from, because that's what I want to do in my development environment. I want to show you how to basically able to pull in data. And every projection has a unique workflow ID and a step ID. So here I'm using the workflow ID and step ID. And when I call this object here from the Tercen OR package, it basically talks to Tercen, the local Tercen. And now I can do, it's an OR6 class, so I can now basically call a select statement on it and get the projection. So now I've just done it, and see it comes in as a data frame. I can just click on the data frame here so you can see it. So you basically see the Y, the CI, and the ORI. These are the dot Y are the measurements coming from this projection. So these are the actual data points, and the CI and the ORI are the location, the indexes of this cell. This would be the row and the column index. This would be 00. This would be 01, 02, and you're basically getting the data as a data format. You manipulate the data format, like for example, using the Hadley piping, and you save it back. That's how you develop an operator or a Shiny. You basically use this concept of our accessing it through the API and a table in and a table out, basically. So I'll continue here. So I mentioned the Tern Cloud, we have the Tercen Studio, and we have the Tercen Enterprise. And we think that this could really change the game for non-coders and coders. We think that Tercen allows basically non-coders to powerfully interact with data. And we think that coders, they can simplify the OR code and the OI deployment because Tercen will help them in that respect. So I think Tercen liberates, especially the coder, and empowers the non-coder. We're always looking for coders and use cases. So if you have problems and use cases that you would like to, we're a startup, so we're interested in the use cases to show what we can do, and we're looking for coders. It's free. You can go up and you can sign up for the cloud version. You can download the enterprise version and the development version, so it's free. And I'm looking forward to anybody who wants to try it. This is my name, Faris Naji. This is my email address, and I hope you guys get in contact with me. I can take some questions now, and I appreciate it. So I'll just stop sharing maybe. And take
Thanks, Faris. Yeah, we've got, if anyone wants to send questions, if you'd like to just type them into the chat, but we have a question from Eugene. Eugene asks, are there any issues with reproducibility with Tercen?
Well, we keep the package management. We use the ORM package manager, and we have a whole cache system for package management. So in terms of having the same code available to you a month later, 2 months, 3 months, yes, so we take care of that. We're using a sophisticated package layer in Tercen. In terms of reproducibility, in terms of code, like the workflow, and because we're workflow orientated, it means we keep all the relational data pipeline. And we also have a versioning system, which I didn't show you, and we haven't activated it in the GUI. So every time you change the workflow, you get a version. So we've taken the GitHub model that projects or any project should be completely versioned. So we take it on 2 points, the package management and the workflow versioning itself. I hope that answered Eugene's question.
Yeah, we've got a question from Jan. Jan asks, if a non-coder selects and removes this, that, and the other column as demoed, can some other user find out what was deleted and why 3 years later?
Yeah, so that's a versioning question. So we keep what the clicks the user did on the, so they deleted the 3 columns or removed them. But if you go back to the demo, I removed those things, you didn't see it, but it keeps a little filter on the top left to show that you have actually removed those 3 or 4 columns. And those filters are available throughout your workflow. So you actually have a visual representation of what you did. And if you delete that filter, the 3 columns come back again, or the 4 columns. So it's a way of, so our system is a very visual system. Everything that you're manipulating the data visually. So you're adding columns, the rows and the columns, and you have the filters, and you're manipulating the visuals interactively.
Okay. Someone called WD asks, says, WF is versioned. Is data also versioned?
Yes, so we version everything. We don't expose it to the GUI at the moment, since we're in our version 2 of the product. But we're trying to think of how to expose that, just like in Git, how they expose it with these branches and these master branch. And so we're thinking of how to expose it, but the answer is yes, we version everything. And the way we've implemented versioning is through a kind of action. Every time you do an action, we record the action, and you can replay the action. We don't express it through the GUI yet, but I think in version 3 or 4 we will have the versioning exposed via the GUI.
Okay. A question from Rich. Can he ask how you're managing the product development process? How do you prioritize feature development and get feedback, etc.?
Yes, it's a great question. I do that all the day, but it's basically like we just got the Pfizer deal last week, and everything that Pfizer says they want, I just give it to them. It's to do with who's paying, because we're a small company, so customers are key. So whoever, it's the one who's paying me the most. But I also have my own vision. We're prioritizing performance, like I mentioned, millions of data points. So we want to, at the moment, we're handling 20 million data points in the visual and the visual aspects and the relational aspects, and we want to go much higher than that. So performance is a constant priority for us, since we are dealing with large data sets in our customers. And at the moment, the largest customer determines the features, but we have our own vision. So we basically fight a lot about features and which ones to do. We have so the engineering features usually win out more than the cosmetic features.
Okay, I'll make this the last question. This is from Jan. How are there's a couple of questions within a question. How are the columns specified? Can this be applied? How are the columns specified?
Yeah.
And can this be applied to another matrix? And even more importantly, what happens if the column names of the other matrix are not the same as that of the matrix which was used to define the filter?
Yeah, that's very good. We have a thing called a wizard who does the mapping between, let's say you've made a workflow and you've used a certain column name. That workflow you can add a wizard at the top of the workflow, which does the mapping. And so the new column names that you use for a new data set, it maps the old column name. So we have this mapping function, which I didn't show in the demo, but it's a wizard. And the wizard asks you the question, what are your column names? And the user says, oh, this is my column name. And therefore it knows how to map it to the workflow. I also have a join step, which allows you to join extra annotation because the biologists always want to change the column names. And that's called joining. And of course, the OR programmers know about it. It's called joining, but I let it for the non-coders that they can join extra meta information, including renaming as a step, as a join step. And then they can bring it in as an extra, another file describing what column names to use being joined into the workflow.
Okay, brilliant. Oh, sorry, Faris.
No problem. I hope that was clear.
That was great. Okay, I think we're going to end time on questions for you. There's just one more question in the chat, if you wouldn't mind answering, just via the chat, if that's okay.
No,
so thank you very much for joining us, Faris.
No, thank you, Laura, for inviting me, and Richard. I'm delighted that, and also congratulations being bought by Accenture. I think that's great.
Cheers. Thank you very much.